First encounter with love. Ooh. We talking just puppy love, googly eye love, or
romantic love.
Romantic love.
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 Have you ever been in love? I should say.
High school, around sophomore, junior year.
Love.
I was trying so hard as a cheerleader. I was trying to do everything to impress her. And like, I don't know, we shared like 4 out of our 6 classes together, so she was always around. So, you know, I was in there trying to showboat. Oh, I know the answer to this, raise my hand, I took her, I was just doing anything to get next to her, get there. And when she finally gave me a shot, I kind of like froze up, because I'm like, dang, like she took to it. So after a while, like, I felt like once we started to get to know each other more outside of, just being in the class and being at school, I really started to, fall for her. Like, that was my first crush, my first love. It was in high school.
Real romantic love?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, because like romance evolves, I think, as you get older. There's the concepts that you have as love, or even your understanding of love evolves.
Right.
So, I would say, even though I had, little girlfriends, things like that, my first encounter with real romantic love was probably my second girlfriend. Because I think that was the time. I think, especially when you're younger, I think we often have the tendency to view relationships as far as what we get out of it.
Yeah, of course.
And, and really that dictates how we act in a relationship. This is probably the first person that I met that I got the sense that she was doing a lot of things, even sometimes in spite of herself, because she cared about me that much. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it was a romance at the time that I just wasn't really prepared for, and wasn't really in a position to give her what I felt like she deserved. So I broke up the relationship, and it was really tough because, I don't know if things would have been better if I could have worked it out, but at that time, like, to just have somebody really genuinely love you like that outside your family and care about you, to not only let them go because it's the more selfless thing to do, but know that in the process you're hurting them.
Yeah, that's difficult.
It's tough, and it's something I still think back to, and something that I would be lying if I said I don't sometimes wonder if I missed that opportunity. Because I imagine that those relationships don't always just pop up every.
Right.
Oh man, I've always had an infatuation with the ladies. Man, as a kid, I would say elementary school, one lady named Zaya, we had the same birthday. She was like, I think 2 grades over me. But yeah, I always just followed her around, like almost stalkish, like, hey. It was bad. Because it was a homeschool, so there's so many of us.
Right.
It's that one weird kid, like, then in middle school, saw more ladies, and I was like, oh, it's more than just Zaya now. It's like, it's quite a few of them. So liking that. Then fast forward to high school. I definitely was not comfortable because I was like the little chubby kid.
Yeah.
Like I would say like my freshman, kind of sophomore year. I wrestled freshman, sophomore year, and then it's like gotta go into football. So I think transitioning out of sophomore into junior year, I shed off a lot of weight. And even in sophomore year, like women would like come up to me, but I was completely oblivious. It's like, I'm not that dude. Like, you couldn't like me.
Right.
Even though like you're developing into your own man, so it was just like, women were like really turned on to me because I would really be chivalrous to them.
Mm-hmm.
I show chivalry by always just asking like how they're doing, like what's going on in their life, opening up doors, walking them to classes, holding their backpack or books.
Books.
Yeah, that could always get you a good smile.
Oh man. You know mine, because I was living with you in high school.
That's
when
right.
I encountered my first love.
Yeah.
I mean, it was everything you said it would be, as far as... At first he tried me saying it was puppy love, because, I'm in high school and younger, but I was trying to tell you, like, nah, Pop. You know what I mean? That's the one, man, you know? But no, it was everything you described it to be, you know what I mean? First love life, it was serious. I mean, I may have been in high school, but you know what you like as a person, you know? And,
My first love, it didn't come a little till after high school. I was 21 when I finally got in my first relationship. I wanted to wait till I found someone special, but you know, after dating for a while, then you start to develop feelings for that person, and it's hard to describe, but it's basically you got their back, they got your back. You'll do anything for them.
Yes.
You know, you try to help them out in any way, and it gets stronger. It develops more and more. The more you get to know that person, and the longer you're with them. And my first girl that I dated, now she's my fiance.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to say that.
I mean, it is that it's weird. I feel like, especially with men, like there's a breaking point where you may experience it young, but you don't know actually how to respond to it, or you don't actually know how to do anything with it because it's this new thing and it's delicate. And you've had no experience with it, and then when you get older and you have the ability to discern, like this is what actually it is. The first I don't even know what like the first would be. Like in some degree, I'm like, oh, would it be high school? Would it be these things?
Right, exactly.
College relationships, because there are women in that time frame where like specifically, I'm like, oh, there was love and there was love shared, and but even like to this moment, like being in a relationship now, it's only recently where I genuinely understand, like, oh, this is what love is. It's not just a thing of like, it's doing annoying things.
Right.
Like, let's be frank. It's not like,
right.
It's not like, oh, I love this person. We're gonna go skip through the fields.
Right.
It's like, I love this person. I have to go drive them to go get surgery.
Right.
Exactly. Like to me, that's when you're like, I love this person, because you're willing to go out of your way in a way that would almost inconvenience you if it was any other person.
Right.
And you don't even think about it. You're like, yeah, I have to do this. There's no second thought to it. Like if my mother called me and was like, yeah, you gotta drive me to surgery, I would do it. And it's that same thing of like, would you do this for another person?
Right.
And so like to some degree, it's not until recently in being in a relationship where it's like, oh, now I understand what romantic love is. But even looking back and having romantic love to some degree and experiencing heartbreak in that sense, I guess, college. But in all honesty, like an adult form of love, I guess if that's the best way to put it, would only be until recently.
Right. I think love is overrated, me. Personally.
Overrated?
Oh yeah, love is overrated, because it kills me because people say I love you and they don't show the actions, you know what I mean?
So it's just a word put on there.
Yeah, like nowadays people use it just like second nature. I love you. I mean, it does sound better than I care about you, whatever, but I don't, like people always say, well, love is not overrated. I ask them, how can you love somebody and you beat them? But you tell them I beat them because I love you. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, love, that's a hell of a word, you know what I'm saying? But, I've had great feelings. I've deeply cared about somebody. I love them, I guess you want to say, But my first encounter, I'm so old I can't
You gotta think
that.
back.
I'm so old I can't.
For me, my first love was your mother. Like I loved people, but it wasn't like love. Like I wasn't doing the unconditional, I'll run through a wall for this person. I was always a gentleman, always open the doors and be respectful. Old school and chivalry, big on that. And you guys know that. Yeah. But for me, it was your mom. It was your mom. We just had a lot of good chemistry, a lot of love. We was heading in the same direction in our goals and our career. And the feeling was just amazing. I was just like, man, I didn't know I could feel like this about somebody. It's one thing to love like your family. That's a different love. This is this is everything. And it was incredible. And I never really wanted to be a dad or get married and then to fall in love with her and then to be a dad. I still think like, dummy, what were you thinking? Because one of the most redeeming things in my life is having been married to your mother and having you guys as my sons. That's very important to me.
I really liked this lady who my babysitter was my babysitter's best friend. Like my babysitter's best friend. My babysitter's name was Princella. And up to 2 or 3 years ago, I even remember this lady's name that I fell in love with. So I guess she was a teenager.
Yeah.
To be babysitting me, and she was just, to me, the finest thing I'd ever seen. Brown skin, straight hair, pretty smile, man. So of course, my first incident with love was being rebuffed by some older woman saying, "What's wrong with you?" Well, boy, get out of my face. Then, man, I've had some crazy experiences with affection, I guess. I liked one of my school teachers. I liked one of my school teachers once. And I actually took a ring from my mother's jewelry box and gave it to my school teacher. And she turned me in. She told my mom about it. Mom gave me a little bit of a whooping. No, she gave me a lot of bit of a whooping. High school, I guess, I started trying to date. And it was difficult for me. I was still very nervous. So I wasn't comfortable with my package with you know, my looks and all that stuff. So I had a job and I had a car. And I had a teacher in high school named Mr. Greathouse who told us about chivalry and how to treat women and how to be a gentleman. And one day in class he told us that chivalrous men have more women. He didn't say it like that, but he made it known that if you were a man who was a gentleman or known to be a gentleman, more women would like to be in your presence. I was in. So I went on a quest to learn how to be the most chivalrous man possible. And because I've been doing it since that time, it is innate in me now. Opening doors and closing doors and asking how they feel and trying to pay attention and, you know, just those things. So much so that I still point out to the young men that I talk to saying, man, you know what? I don't care how good your relationship is. You open a couple doors for her, carry a couple bags for her, it'll get better. You know, it gets better. It gets better.
Wow. I'll never forget. I played in high school. I played high school basketball, and this guy, the coach, his name was Coach Miller. He was hard. You know what I mean? He never smiled or whatever. You know what I mean? He was mean, but he was nice mean. But he was mean. Everybody was scared of him in school and everything. He made, y'all better go to class. He made us run laps and all that. And when I graduated, I went into the Air Force. And, you know, every time I came home, we always hung out with him or whatever, because he was selling cakes and all that. He was a hustler, whatever, selling cakes and candy. He had retired from the school district. Him and his wife I was living in London, in England. Him and his wife went to Paris, and they came down to England to spend a day with me. We had a whole day, you know, went to a show and everything. And I will never forget him, mean, Mr. Bad, mean, Mr. Miller. He grabbed me by he had his hands on both of my arms, and he looked at me and said, "I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you." And he hugged me. And that was coming from him. It was like, you know, he basically told me he loved me, you know what I'm saying? But coming from him, it was
something different.
Oh my goodness. You know, somebody you mentor or something like that. Oh my goodness, it meant a lot, you know, to hear him tell me that how proud he was, you know.
For me, first time, obviously, my father. That's obviously my first memories. He always made it known, you know, that he loved us. He was a pops that supported us, always there for us.
Always.
And other than him, obviously all the family. Everybody gets together. We show love for each other. Respect.
That's right.
I would say my uncle.
Okay.
But my uncle didn't come into my life until my mother found out about my uncle.
Okay.
Because my mom comes from a blended family,
All right.
and my grandfather was pretty much a Rolling Stone. He probably had like 10 kids, and 2 out of my grandmother. So we're actually still finding kids that he's had.
Right.
Since he passed away last year, we're still finding them.
Wow.
So my mother's half brother, we discovered that he was actually out here in California in Rialto. Actually, he was living in Pomona at the time, and we became really close around the age of, I want to say, he helped us move into the house, so I had to be like 7.
Okay.
And he was the first like positive male role model ever in my life.
Yeah.
And he would like really like show me love, but he was that father figure that would check me.
Yeah.
And he would always just kind of sit me down, like almost like a father, like,
Yeah.
I love you. Like, how you doing? How's this? How's that? Taught me how to bowl, like little simple things. Like he wasn't.
So proud of is that one's a more elusive one, I feel. Loved is actually in a weird way easier. Like and it shouldn't be weird, I guess, but like in my household, that was a big thing, is that we were such a blended family, and though we had our own issues, it was always a big thing for everyone to say that they loved them. Like even if you got into a fight, it was like, tell your sibling you love them. Because like at the end of the day, this is the person that's going to be there for you. Like I'm coming to terms with that too, and the fact that I'm the youngest, so I know there'll be a time where it's just going to be us as siblings, and I'm going to be, hopefully, Lord willing, the one that outlives them. And it's like, how do you go through that experience? Right. So like my brother said it all the time. I had cousins who said it all the time. My father said it. So that was, and interesting, I don't know if you ever had, there was an English teacher I had when I was at Morehouse. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he made it a priority to tell the men in his class that he loved them. Oh. And we thought it was weird. Like, you're young, you're like 18, 19, you're trying to be like, what the fuck does this mean? Right. But he was doing it looking back as a way to be like, if the world doesn't love you, at least know that I love you. Right. And I thought that was, looking back, I think that's one of those things that I took for granted, because I'm young, but like, it felt good. Like we would go out of our way to go to his office and hang out with him because it felt good to be welcome. Right.
For me, I'll have to say it was my uncle, because he was a Boy Scout troop leader, and we were in his troop, and I'll never forget, it was we had like a Scout Olympics competition against other Boy Scout troops and everything like that, and I was always the youngest in the Scout troop. So my brother, my cousins, everybody were older. It would happen to be relay races during track. And I'm the smallest one, so I was running third leg. And I'm in there with dudes that are, they big, they fast and everything. And I had to get around, like, it was something, I don't know, I was just trying not to fail, trying to be good, trying to do my best I could. I outran all of them. What? And when they got to the end, I was so dead tired, I couldn't stand up. We won the relay race. He came over, he picked me up, he was like, man, I'm so proud of you. You got in there, you fought, you ran. He was, I didn't know you was that fast. I said, I didn't know I was that fast either. But I was like, I didn't want to disappoint everybody by being the youngest, and then, you put me in the third spot. I'm like, dang, we got out to a good lead, but I didn't want to lose that lead when they got to my turn.
It lost because of you.
Yeah, and being a Boy Scout, the lessons that I was able to learn and all the information I got from him, because he's a carpenter, he was passing all that down through us and trying to help us be raised the same way he was. So when that moment, I felt he was the most proud of me, because it's like, you listen, you did everything you're supposed to do, you did it the right way.